Welcome to the Astro Psyche. This is your weekly astrology forecast for December 30th through January 5th. This week we have a new moon in Capricorn. We have Venus moving into the sign of Pisces. And then we also have a very strong transit that is exact this particular week, which is Mars opposite Pluto. My name is Shawna McGrath. I'm a depth psychotherapist and an astrologer, and I'm so honored to share the astrology of this week with you. Very last week of the year, so Happy New Year to you. All right, so I know that this forecast is coming in a little bit late, so bear with me. And this week there is this planting of seeds. There is this we could think of it as setting intentions. We could think of it as we are dipping our toe into something new. And also, I think we could conceptualize this as moving a veil or a curtain aside to see a new pathway forward. And this is really the energy of the new moon in Capricorn. So this new moon in Capricorn is exact Monday, the 30th of December at 2:27 p.m. Pacific time. It's happening exactly at 9 degrees of Capricorn. And so this is within the context of the sign, it's in about the first third of the sign. So still a little bit early. And some more logistics for you, and then we'll talk more about what the significance is. This particular new moon will be making a sextile, so a helpful aspect to Saturn. There's some support and assistance from Saturn, structure, boundaries, regimen, diligence. And it's also making a square, a more tense aspect to Chiron. So there's a little bit of tension or compromise or trying to find a synthesis around issues of healing and how you manage your capacity for helping and healing yourself and others, especially themes around self-sacrifice. So new moons are always this brand new initiatory beginning every single month. And we had our new moon in the sign of Sagittarius last month. The month before that, we had the new moon in Scorpio. So the new moons and the full moons always go in this zodiacal order. So next month, we'll have the new moon in Aquarius. Sometimes we get a double up. Every year we get one sign that gets a double, but that's a different story. So we have this predictable cycle of time where we get an opportunity to feel into a new way of being through the channel of each sign in the zodiac every single year. So every single year we get a little burst of new, fresh energy. And I think we can also think of this, I'm really feeling this particular new moon, this idea of initiation, of there is something that is being started, and there is also uninitiation. There is something that you are being initiated into, and initiations are thresholds. They are markers of change, of transitioning from one thing to another thing, and they often contain a multitude of tasks, of ordeals, of gifts, of blessings and surprises via support, and then also basically stuff that you have to do, or not that you have to do, but things to meet, things to confront. And I think that is especially so with a new moon in Capricorn, because Capricorn is the sign of Earth in a cardinal modality. So this is the earth, the material world, earthly matter, material, physical reality, the things that we can tangibly touch and see, and the things that we need in order to take care of ourselves at a more practical level. Capricorn is very practical, and it is a cardinal sign, which is this theme of initiating, starting something new, beginning a new process, or beginning a new layer of what is existing. And it's also ruled by Saturn. And so Saturn is the planet of structure, of boundaries, of containment, of responsibility, of mortality. Saturn really reminds us of the challenges as well as the beauty of limitation, that there's only so much that life is precious, that what we have is precious. And when that gets distorted, or there feels like there's too much pressure, too much limitation, or too much stress, that can start to feel confining or hopeless or helpless, those kinds of things. So these are the multitude of layers of Saturn. So Saturn is very active this week as an influence because it is the ruler of this particular new moon, being the ruler of Capricorn. And this new moon is making a sextile to Saturn, so that means it's 2 signs away. Saturn being in Pisces. And so Saturn offers some support in this initiation process. And what that may look like is seeking support from folks who have experience, from folks who maybe have just even a little bit more experience than you have in the things that you want to do, and from folks who are experienced and also are ready, willing, and able to assist you in the way that they are able to. Yeah, that they're ready, willing, able, and motivated to help you. This is really important. And especially around themes of these practical matters, security, safety, caring for your household is a big theme when we're talking about Capricorn. And then this moon is square to Chiron. It's a soft aspect in that it's a little bit farther away by degree, but we're still going to count it because it is a square, and squares tend to be more active and present and more forward in our focus. And so I think that we're also thinking about too, just like these are emotional themes as well. And so these could, I think this is like a side note and maybe something that I want to talk about in a different podcast. But I was talking to a dear astrologer friend recently about how I think that in astrology we tend to focus so much on what's going to happen. Like, what is the event? What is the external thing that happens, and that it's a concrete individual moment in time or event. And I think certainly that can be the case, and we can see that. And I've been really feeling into astrology as an indicator of an arc of experience, of the quality of experience, our mood and our feelings, and kind of like the day-to-day things that we experience. This is actually very moon, in that there may or may not be an event, and also the landscape, the background, the day-to-day sort of like feeling tone also is reflected in the astrology. And so this week, there's actually multiple layers this week, but as far as the new moon, there is this feeling of something new, of a new beginning, a fresh start. And there's also this feeling of support via experience, via time, via limitation with Saturn. And then there's also this feeling of maybe a little bit of how to navigate the Chiron of this equation, which Chiron represents healing, helping healing. It also very much represents self-sacrifice and our relationship to how much we give to others versus how much we receive, and our finite capacity to give of ourselves, that there is only so much that we can give before we start to feel depleted, or start to where things start to get wonky, so to speak. And so actually, as I'm talking through this might be a part of what this is how can you be generous, and be generous in your giving, but also be generous in your receiving. And then how can you navigate how you give and receive in a way that is empowering and life affirming, and that there's a healing opportunity here via Chiron to transform any tendencies around sacrificing yourself in a way that is detrimental. So maybe that is something that is a part of this new moon, this month's journey for you. Okay, so that's what I have to say about the new moon for now. As always, love hearing how this is landing for you and what you're feeling. Also, like, I always think with the new moon, we are not the full executor of what happens. We're sort of like, we can make decisions, and also I think it's really helpful to look at what's arising in your consciousness as you're hearing some of these themes, and then where do you notice that this might be already like starting to come into motion in your life. And then I think even looking back at the end of the month when we have our new moon in Aquarius, as you know, what has transpired. And then of course, always, I think it's really valuable to look at your personal birth chart as much as you can, if you wish to look at the house where this Capricorn new moon is happening, and the aspects that this new moon is making, the aspects to personal planets in your birth chart, because that's going to tell you a little bit more about how this collective experience of the new moon and the new moon with Saturn, the new moon with Chiron, how that is connecting in with you at a personal level. So you look at your experiences, what's happening for you in your consciousness as we're talking about this, and then also what the correlations in the astrology are. Okay, so Venus is changing signs. So Venus changes signs about every month or so, month-ish. So Venus was depending on when you're listening to this, is in Aquarius from December 7th through January 2nd, Venus in Aquarius. This week, on January 2nd, Venus is moving from Aquarius into Pisces, and Venus will be in Pisces from the 2nd of December until the 4th of February. And so I really quite like this Venus change during this week in particular, because it brings this more soft, soothing, healing, like it feels much more soft and ethereal compared to some of the energy here that is maybe a little more sharp or direct and maybe more practical. This is the new moon, and we're also going to talk about Mars opposite Pluto, very sharp kind of energy. So Venus is the planet of relationships, beauty, aesthetics, our experience of feminine folks, our cultural concept of what it means to be feminine. Venus is also connected to sensuality, allure, what we are attracted to, what we are drawn to. And it can also be connected to finances as well, in that it's connected to our values, and what we value is oftentimes what we are attracted to or unattracted to. And so when we track Venus through the zodiac, we're tracking what our experience is of relationships and of all of these things. And so I think that Venus in Aquarius may have been a particularly intense month, especially more in December, with Venus being with Pluto in Aquarius. There was possibly this experience of revealing around relationships or relational dynamics, and like sort of revealing and seeing more. We also had Venus opposite Mars, and so like a lot of energy getting kicked up around relationships, I think. And so this next month with Venus in Pisces is about the beauty and the ideals of relationship and beauties, and how we can have these states of flow and enjoyment, and really just like revel in what it means to be in relationship. Now, of course, Venus in Pisces can also be getting lost in the ideal, or being more connected to the ideal versus the reality. That's sort of one of the downsides. Venus is said to be exalted in Pisces, which in ancient astrology is said to be benefic. It's said to be good and helpful and easy. And that can certainly be the case. And sometimes I find that Venus in Pisces there can be like a too muchness about it. It can be sort of like an exaggerated phenomenon, and so possibly an exaggeration around the idealism of relationships or beauty or aesthetics. And we have a whole month to feel into this and see how this is going to be operating for you. That being said, I do like this movement of Venus into Pisces. It feels like much more soothing and easeful, I think. With Venus's stay here over the next month, Venus will conjunct Saturn. It will conjunct Neptune. It will, what else is it going to do? It's going to square Jupiter. And so I think that there's also this experience of bringing the ideal into reality and testing, is that the right word I want to use here? I was going to say kind of like testing the limits of what we want and what is realistic. Like testing out the ideals, I think, can be a theme over the next month. And I think that it's really an opportunity to connect with what it is that you love, and that the idealism can be very enchanting and inspiring, and we want to hold it softly, I think, is part of the theme. I think a part of the wisdom, especially with Venus connecting with Saturn in Pisces this next month. So those are some of the themes. I think that there's a lot of resources here with Venus in Pisces in its exaltation, and that exaltation with a planet tends to mean that that planet has resources that it can offer to us. And so this next month, the astrology correlates to having resources with beauty, with aesthetics, with art, and finding connection in relationships where it feels just like you can just exist and be in this sort of flow state, whether that is with another human being or in nature or something in yourself. Finding things that you find pleasing is a huge resource for you this next month. Okay. So let's talk about Mars opposite Pluto. So you might say, Shawna, we have already talked about this. Yes, we have. So we've been gently, or maybe not so gently, running Mars opposite Pluto in the background, essentially since fall. And it became exact when Mars was in Cancer, Pluto was still in Capricorn. It became exact in late October into early November. So maybe interesting to contemplate that period of time, what that was like for you, if there was these planetary energies together are really about revealing truths, Pluto, around anger, agitation, frustration, or simply being irked in some way. Those are all Mars themes. Mars is also a symbol of our ability to act, our ability to defend, to initiate, to advocate. It's also simply the function of being passionate and excited and riled up and active and courageous. Mars is our ability to meet confrontation. Our I think it's also to some extent like our stamina or virility in order to meet something that maybe is a little bit scary or difficult. So Mars and Saturn have some overlap around themes of confronting, confronting hard things, dealing with challenges, around boundaries. But they're different in that Saturn is more about creating fence posts, or creating like, this is the non-negotiable, or this is like, Saturn is more about the containment of things, whereas Mars is more about the defending of things. Mars is more of an active energy. And we can think about Mars as a symbol of how we stand up for ourselves or for others, what that looks like for us. And so when we have Mars opposite Pluto, Pluto is a symbol of the hidden, the repressed, the marginalized, the taboo, feelings of shame around something, like that something is not okay. It can also simply be the mysterious, the unknown, the unseen. Pluto holds a lot of energy, and whenever a planet comes into aspect with Pluto, there is a component of that planet that is being awakened or being seen in a way that it hasn't been seen before. And this tends to be a combination of it can be scary, it can be overwhelming, it can be like, oh, I don't want to see that, or I don't want to do that, and it can also be enlivening at the same time. I think Pluto can sometimes symbolize like a cringe kind of factor, or cringe kind of feeling, not all the time. And so Pluto is essentially all things unconscious, whether we are unconscious of something because we find it unacceptable in some way, that we've been socially conditioned to feel that it's not okay, or because it's just been latent there. It hasn't been tapped into, it hasn't been energized. There may not be a shame or like a repressive sort of tone to it. It may just be that it hasn't been woken up yet, so to speak. It hasn't been activated. The heat hasn't been turned on yet. And so when we're talking Mars here, this is a very dynamic energy, because there's an awakening, there's an enlivening, a seeing, an ability to see something that has not been seen before. And this is around our passion, our vitality, our movement, our physical action, physical vitality. Mars is also really connected to sports as well, in that it's like there's this physicality and competitiveness to sport. I think that this can also be a symbol of a renewal around your experience of healthy anger and aggression, and what that looks like for you. Acknowledging maybe ways that you do feel anger or annoyed or upset about something when maybe you didn't even realize it. Maybe it was unconscious and getting expressed in a different way, even like somatically. Sometimes anger, when it's unconscious, can get expressed in the body via tension or ailments or things like this. And so I think this is this Mars opposite Pluto is a call to transform your experience of anger, of confidence, of passion. And that, I don't know what that's going to look like for you. It may be more subtle, it may be more striking, it may happen externally outside of you, it may be something more that you see in your sphere, in your world with other people in your life versus in your own experience. And so I would just kind of notice, again, like always notice what is coming up for you as I'm talking about this. And then we watch to see how things are moving and happening. Let's see, what else? Oh yeah, of course, super important to note about this is that Mars is retrograde. So this Mars being retrograde really intensifies the focus of this aspect, because when Mars is retrograde, it's moving very, very slow. So it's kind of like a concentrated, like if you think about um, uh, a paintbrush with a huge dollop of paint on it moving very slow, it's like really seeping into the paper. And Mars also is appearing to move backwards in the sky. So there is this more internalized or introspective or contemplative quality to Mars. So we're already with Mars retrograde. So Mars retrograde happens about every 2 years. So I think it's a fairly significant transit. And, it's not a once in a lifetime. It's about an every 2 year experience that we get to look at how we relate to these themes. We get to contemplate and reflect on our experience of self-confidence and passion and how we get angry, how we express our anger and what that looks like, and how we advocate for ourselves or for others, how we say no, how we say yes, how we are definitive in confrontations of all kinds. So this Mars retrograde began in December. It will go through to February 2025. And Mars will return to this place in Leo where it will make another opposition to Pluto. So there's this, we're really like dipping in and out of exactness with Mars opposite Pluto. So this is not the last time that we will get a chance to experience this energy. And since we've already had this aspect active once, there's a familiarity to it. And I think sometimes when that happens, it's kind of like there may be a returning to a theme, but this time, this week, with having some sense of knowing around it, or some sense of like, okay, like I know what's happening here and I know how to deal with this. Okay, so those are my thoughts on the astrology. I wonder how this is sitting with you. I wonder how you're feeling. I do think it's interesting. Also, like, always important to note that we are moving into the new year. Whether or not your faith or your concept of reality acknowledges this particular, the 1st of January as the new year or not, collectively, we are in this experience collectively of acknowledging January 1st as the new year. And so we have this new moon, we have Mars opposite Pluto, so it feels like a lot of very dynamic and motivated energy, I would say. I think that it's really sweet that we have Venus moving into Pisces to bring a bit of a balance to some energy that maybe could be experienced as a little more like sharp or hot or overly practical with the Capricorn. Okay, so I'm pulling some tarot cards for you. And now is a moment to get into a place of being able to turn your energy inward in any way that works for you. Either focusing on your own breath, your own inner experience, or connecting with a sensory experience outside of you, a sound, temperature, taste. And as you're here, imagine yourself in a beautiful bubble of light. The light can be any color that feels good for you right now. And in this place is a beautiful time to call in and request the presence of your spiritual guidance team, ancestors, angels, whoever it is that you connect with as a benevolent, divine supporting force. And from here, maybe a question or an inquiry or a thought arises. you wish. You can pick a card between 1 and 3 to be special to you. Okay. Okay. So, first card is the Tower. So in this card, there is a person that's sitting next to a castle, and the castle has like got some stuff going on. There's like a fire, there's a cloud, there's also a lot of planets in the sky. And there's a cat flying on a broomstick. This person, they're sort of like looking at the castle and they don't look upset. So that feels really important. And actually, as I'm looking at this, there is a little box of matches next to this person. So they did they light the tower on fire? I don't know. So the tower traditionally is a symbol of radical change, upheaval, of something that has essentially something that like is worn or like isn't working anymore, that it is changing or it is transitioning, and that it may change in a way that's unexpected, or if it's not unexpected, there's a radicalness to it. There's an upheaval to it, in that there's something about the foundation or the core of something that needs to be changed, and that it needs to be changed because it's no longer sustainable. And I think this is really connecting into the Capricorn energy of this new moon, because Capricorn and Saturn both correlate to having a strong, solid foundation, that is super important, and that if there is something in the core or the foundation of something, we could also think of this as like the core values of something, the underlying structure, that really needs to be secure or resonant. So there's something here that's about change or transition in a way that the tower, I think, for some folks can feel a little scary, because there's like an unexpectedness to it, and it is change, and change can be scary. And there can also be a delightfulness to it. There can be an excitement to the change. And I think one of the biggest things with the tower is that it's often a change that if we've been paying attention, it's really not a surprise. It's like, okay, yeah, there's something here that I've been knowing, that there's something that is ready for a rehaul, so to speak. Okay, so the next card is the Seven of Wands. And in this card, there's a person with their cat, and they're like packing this giant suitcase full of brooms, and they can't quite close the suitcase. So, and I actually, for this card, for some reason, I really, really feel like I need to read from the book. This is the tarot deck is the Tarot of Spells and Potions. So the Seven of Wands says, the road ahead requires preparation. Do not give in to others your desires and principles. Believe and protect yourself. Okay, interesting. So, yeah, are you preparing for something? So this card tends to be about protecting your thoughts or beliefs, or like, you know, how do you stay true to yourself and protect your principles and your beliefs? And the opposite of that, the inverse, is, are you like blocking out helpful advice from someone or something else? Are you like being too rigid in staying in like, this is the way, and not being open to other advice or possibilities? So in this particular card, this particular deck, emphasizes the road ahead requiring preparation and not giving in, not sacrificing or like not bending on your desires and your principles and believing in yourself. So there's something really here about, I'm just really thinking about the suitcase and like that when we pack a suitcase, we're taking our things with us. And I don't know about you, but when I travel, I like to have all of my, I don't overpack, but I am very particular in that I like to have all of my things, all of my creature comforts with me as much as I can, at least. But sometimes the suitcase gets too full and then I need to pare it back. So, how can you be prepared? And how can you, I think this is really connecting into the Venus in Pisces, is okay, like what actually is essential based on what you value, what you hold important, and at a practical level, what's important, and then also at a values level, what is important. And that maybe because of this change and transition, there's a, like, I'm thinking of this, the tower sort of like this upheaval or this change and transition, and then things are no longer automatic, and that maybe that requires a reevaluation of what it is that is important to you. Okay, and then last card is the Ten of Pentacles. So I did pull this reversed. The tens tend to be cards of culmination, of completion, and the Ten of Pentacles tends to symbolize, gosh, what do I want to say here? I'm having many different thoughts coming in. It tends to speak to this feeling of financial security and abundance, but that can also be this feeling of simply feeling taken care of. In the traditional card, it's a card of family members together, like a multi-generational family system, and everyone's all happy, which I laugh because, you know, that doesn't always happen. And the family symbolizes this sense of support and connection, and that there's this interdependence where there is this feeling of security at a practical level, that there is care being taken. Now on this card, there is a person, like a very short person who looks a little irked, and someone is like holding their dress over a cauldron, and there's a bunch of animals around. And that I pulled this particular card and that it's reversed, I'm like, there's something here around financial security maybe, or your stuff or your belongings, or I don't know, is it like things are being, this is super practical, but like, are things being disposed of and you're not crazy about it? Are things being changed in a way that doesn't feel secure to you in some way? Is there a feeling of wanting to have more? And I'm just really struck by the combo of the Seven of Wands having this very full suitcase that they're trying to pack. And even like the suitcase is full and there's all this other stuff in the room too. So like really trying to bring everything, really valuing all of the things. And then in the next card, the Ten of Pentacles, there is something there's an item of clothing that's in jeopardy. And so all of this feels like, okay, what is it that's important to you? Because there is a change, there is an upheaval, there is something that's happening. And then this calls into question your values, your principles, holding true to yourself, and that might be tested in practicality, that there might be this like, oh, maybe like, I guess I think what I'm saying here is that there's this, this is not a one and done decision, that there's a multitude of contemplating what it is that's important to you and then testing that out and seeing how you actually feel in real life, and that you are allowed to change your mind, that you are allowed to choose the folks and situations that really bring that sense of security and sense of comfort, and that it's because there is so much change and transition happening, that it's uncertain what may feel comfortable for you right now, that there's this ongoing process. All right, that is your weekly forecast for this week. I'm wishing you a wonderful week and a happy new year. I hope that your New Year's is safe and healthy, and that you get whatever you need to receive this particular week. As always, my name is Shawna McGrath. If you want to find more about me and my work, you can find me on my website, theastropsyche.com. All right, I'll see you soon. Bye.